Hello. Today I'm here at Dam Head Lane Fishery, and previously on the Angling Addict videos we've been doing match reports. So we were at Junior Match Aid, we were at Limb Anglers Junior Match, and we've also been at the Cheshire Angling Development Group, one of their rounds. But today we finally got back out on the bank, and I'm here again at Dam Head Lane Fishery doing a spot of shallow fishing for the silvers. In this video I'm going to run through the rigs that I'm using today to catch these silvers. We're hoping to do a 4-hour session here today, but you know, we might have to cut it a little bit shorter. And we're just going to see how many silverfish I can actually bag and catch within that time. So I'm going to go through the rigs, I'm going to go through the feeding, and hopefully at the end of the video we'll have a nice net of silverfish to show for it. Keep tuned in. Okay, so why am I here today and why am I fishing shallow? Well, the matches recently, the 3-hour matches, have been won with sort of 15 pound of fish, unless one of the bigger carp have come out. But the average stamp of fish in Dam Head are, you know, 1-2 pound fish, maybe not even that. But there are a really good head of skimmers, and they're growing on as well at the minute, so there's some better fit skimmers on the way to bream coming out, okay? But today, the aim is to see how many pounds of roach and rudd and silverfish I can catch in the around 4 hours time. And I'm going to keep practicing like this over the next few weeks, keep doing this until I can catch 20-25 pounds of silverfish up in the water within, say, 4 or 5 hours. So it's sort of a practice session today to build up my skills when I'm fishing shallow for these roach and the rudd. We've got windy conditions, hence I'm fishing short today at around 5 metres. But even if it wasn't, and even if it was flat calm, I would still be fishing at this length or even closer, because it means that you can ship back and get out there really fast. There's no, you know, it doesn't take a long time to ship out. I'm not fishing 13-14 metres where it takes a little longer to ship out to your swim. Plus, I can throw the maggots into the swim like so, and I don't have to use a catapult. So flicking the rig over the top there, letting the maggot sink slowly. And what you've got to take into account is the fact that your maggot hook bait, which is a single maggot at the minute I think, has got a hook in it as well. So that's going to sink slightly faster than the free offerings that you're throwing in. So we'll demonstrate that now. So I've thrown in some maggots there, and I'm going to slap over the top, lay the rig over the top of the feed, say half a second or a second afterwards, which gives those maggots a head start as they're on the way down, sinking through the water columns. We've got a fish on now, as you can see, and that's straight after flicking that rig over. Straight in the keep net, okay? Keep watching to see some more fish being landed. Okay, so we're catching basically a fish and chuck now. And you may have noticed, but I'm not breaking down my pole from the top kit at all. Now, when you're fishing the pole, usually the angler is pulling the top kit off the other sections of the pole, like so, and swinging the fish or netting the fish. However, when you're fishing shallow like this, and you're speed fishing and you want to get as many fish as you can, you know, in the session, and keep catching fish all the time, and really doing it quickly to build up a big weight, then you need everything to be running slick and you need to be in a rhythm. So instead of breaking down, I've got my pole roller set behind me in a position where I can ship back, and then I can just lift the pole slightly, and because I'm using a small rig, right, and a shallow rig, then that fish is just swinging straight up, and I can take it, unhook it, put it in the net. Okay, so it's key. That's a really, really big tip and a key part of shallow fishing. And when you want to bag up, when you're going for those silver fish, it is key to make sure you don't break down your pole, and you can hopefully get into a position where you're able to swing fish without breaking down the pole easily. It does save a lot of time. And then slapping the rig over on the water like so, slapping the whole rig, not just the hook and the bait. There you go. And that's a self-hooking rig. You've got an 11 hollow elastic, which is a fairly heavy elastic, and that fish, as soon as it takes the bait, against the resistance of the elastic and the short, as you may be able to see there, we've got the dibber float, and then we've got 6 inches of line between that and the Dacron connector, okay? Which means as soon as that fish takes it, the line goes tight between the float and the connector, and that elastic, the resistance from that slightly heavier elastic at 11 hollow, that resistance makes the fish hook itself. And straight away into another fish. Maybe small, but these fish, if you catch enough of them, and that fish has come straight off, landed on the bank, luckily, and in the net. Right. If you get enough of those small fish, as I was saying, it can build up a half decent weight. Just missed a bite. And laying the rig over the top after we've thrown those maggots in. Now, why am I fishing out to those lilies today? Why aren't I fishing with just my top kit? Well, that's a question that, that's a fair question to ask really, because you can still catch fish right under your feet, especially the silver fish, which aren't as shy to come into the edges amongst the bankside disturbance. But I'm fishing over there at those lily pads today, simply because I can hold my pole even in this wind at this length, 5 metres, it's not very far. I can still hold the pole at that length in some gusty winds. I can throw the bait to that spot, and with the lily pads being right there, if any better fish are sitting in those lily pads, then we've got the chance of them maybe coming out onto the edge of the pads, seeing the bait going in, the maggots, and hopefully we might be able to pick up a few bonus fish. With an 11 hollow elastic, we've got a fair chance of keeping those fish away from those lilies. Many people do say, if you're fishing for silverfish, if you're fishing for roach, you need to have really light tackle, okay? Well, to put it simply to you, at a commercial fishery, for example today, I'm using a 5-pound line to a 3-pound hook length. It's not the finest of tackle, it's not the finest of rigs, and we're still catching lots and lots of small silverfish. In the winter, yes, you do need to fine your lines down. You do need to reduce your tackle and make sure everything's a bit finer. But in these summer conditions, when the fish are really feeding, then they're not too worried, they're not too picky, and they'll just go for any maggots they see falling through this swim, because I've got the swim going now and I've fed it correctly. Okay, so we're going to just run through the rig quickly now, and while I'm doing this, as you can see here, we still need to feed the swim, because if we stop feeding the swim for a little while, then the fish won't be there anymore, and they'll move on to a different swim. So we need to keep that bait going in. Right, we'll start at the top quickly. We've got an 11 hollow elastic here. As I said before, we're trying to make a self-hooking rig here, so a slightly heavier elastic, and I'd use this elastic for fishing shallow for the carp, But this elastic, it still comes out when we hook those roach and those rudd, and it's slightly heavier, so it acts as a bolt rig sort of effect. When the fish takes the bait, the resistance of the elastic, the slightly heavier elastic, sets the hook in its mouth, so it's a self-hooking rig. Then coming down to the connector, we've got a Dacron connector there, but we've got a very short dibber float of about 2 inches long, okay? And it's ideal to have a short float, because with a short float, it means as soon as you slap that rig over, that float's gone and sat up straight away, okay? It just sits straight away, short float. Okay, it doesn't take a few seconds to set, you're fishing quickly. And as I said earlier, we've got a 6-inch length of line between the float and the Dacron connector, which means as soon as that fish takes the bait, this line goes tight here, the resistance of the elastic, and the fish is hooked. And that float's just a small Drennan dibber float, okay? And then straight under the float, we've got 2 number 10 stots, okay? Not shots, stots. I need to emphasise that we are using stots and not shots. Shots are round weights that you squeeze onto the line. Stots are sort of cylinder-shaped weights, more to like a rectangle, okay? But they're not round. And we move all those stots here. We move them up so they're just underneath the float, which means that float's quickly sitting up as it should be. We've got line underneath the float, about 12 to 16 inches of line underneath the float, which don't have any weight on it, which means that the hook and the bait will sink fairly naturally. So that's the rig. We've got a size 18 hook, 3 pound hook length, 5 pound main line, and as I've said, you don't really need to go too light when you're fishing commercials, because the silverfish in here, they're used to the tackle, they're hungry fish, they're aggressive feeding, they feed very confidently, so you don't need to worry about going too light, and especially when you've got the risk of hooking a bigger fish also in these mixed fisheries. Pull a kit on there just in case something takes us into the lilies, a bigger fish, but I'm sure we won't need to use that today. Okay, let's put the rig to the test and see if we can catch some more fish. Okay then, so we've decided we're going to call it a day after 4 hours fishing today. I haven't concentrated solely on the fishing, I've been up with Ross helping him fish for a little bit, went to see the lad on the peg next to me who'd landed a nice 12.5 pound common, so we've had a little bit of time when we haven't been fishing, but generally, we've been concentrating on trying to catch these silverfish up in the water. I'm going to try and catch one more fish before we bring up the keep net and see what we've caught today. I haven't had an excellent day because we've had the odd quiet spot where sort of for 10-15 minutes we haven't really had many fish, 1 or 2 fish, and then we've had other times when we'd go in and as soon as the bait touched the water, the elastic was out and another silverfish would be on. So, we haven't caught all day steadily at the same pace, but we have had some really good spots where we've managed to catch maybe 5 fish in a couple of minutes. Okay, so we'll try and get one more fish before the end now, and as you can see, I'm still feeding. I've used about a pint of maggots today, which when you're shallow fishing it's not really that much, but I've only been putting a pinch of maggots in each time, little and often, to try and draw these fish up in the water. And over the next few weeks I'm going to be experimenting with silver fishing up in the water, and the aim is to try and eventually be able to catch, and we've got another fish on now, be able to catch near 20 pound of silvers in a 5 hour space of time. That's the aim anyway for the silver fishing. There we go, a hybrid, needs disgorging. Okay, put him in the net. That's the last fish then. Let's bring up the keep net and see what we've caught. Okay then, so we fished for 4 hours today. There's the end result. Probably £8 to £9 there, I'd say, of mainly rudd and a few hybrids, the odd roach. But you know, I've caught today. Haven't caught solidly all day really quickly, which would have been nice, but that's going to come with a bit more practice of fishing shallow for these silverfish. Splashing it in my eye there. But yeah, a few more weeks of practice like this, and hopefully we'll be on to double-figure bags of silvers. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. You may have even picked up a few tips along the way, and look out for more videos from the Angling Addict YouTube channel.